Thanks for staying with us. You know, while you're talking, I was trying to really understand, because I'm still having trouble understanding, because there are different churches, there are different groups. There are Igbos, Hausas, everybody in different churches. I have them in RCCG, we have them in House on the Rock, we have them in Elevation Church, we have them in Daystar, we have them in different kind of churches. So we're all a group of different people together. So if in one group, a certain culture does this, in another group, the same culture does on another. So there can be evolution. We cannot say that this is how this group behaves. Maybe there's a second, this is how they do. No, we evolve into thinking differently. We do things different. So that's why I keep saying that maybe there's a lot of reorientation that needs to happen. I'm not trying to, I wouldn't want to say, oh, it's a culture, I must respect, that's how it's okay, that it's okay to blame only yourself or your wife.
I'm trying to show mindset.
Yeah, I understand the mindset, but some people in this same culture still go to Daystar, for example. They still go to other churches where they think differently, they act differently. So we can change. Even there are Yoruba cultures that we don't find that are disempowering.
Anymore. Yeah.
There are cultures within my own sect that is totally disempowering, that we've been to change, and so we are here today because we have changed our mindset. So my question is, should we accept it that, okay, this is how they are, let us respect their culture, or we are saying that we don't want women thinking like this anymore, regardless of which culture you are from?
I think it's a matter of... Oh, sorry, Tokwe, go.
Like, what is the price you're willing to pay for your marriage? That's the thing. How valuable is your marriage to you? That's the question. Because when you talk to these women, their marriage is everything to them. The marriage is their life. If the marriage is over, their life is over. So they would do anything to keep that marriage. It's not about modernization. It's not about even financial empowerment. You know, that my marriage is all. My identity as a woman, if my identity as a woman is tied to my marriage, then I will sacrifice everything to keep that marriage. I'll sacrifice my children. We've had women allow their husbands to have incest against their children, all in the altar of my marriage is my all. We've had women that would allow their husbands to have relationship with their younger sisters, even sons. A lot of negative things that you'll be wondering, is this a human being, or because their marriage is their life? So the perspective is, what am I willing to give to remain a married woman? When we start questioning that a woman has a life outside being a wife, then maybe we can start analyzing the situation a bit more. And empowerment is from the mindset.
Yes, I was going to refer to, this culture thing. Sometimes, when we refer back to history or culture, it helps us better understand, and then also equips us with the right tools to engage people like that. Because if you don't understand where they are coming from, you don't understand the root, you'll be talking over their heads, So, like when Nima mentioned this, it really, for me, it was quite eye-opening. I understood now that it's not a matter of just judging someone. So we need to redirect these thoughts and say, okay, now we're talking about empowerment, we're talking about marriage does not have to be the end-all and be-all. If a woman says that marriage is her everything, or when a woman is she's about to get married, and we ask her the question, is there any one thing you cannot take? What is your deal breaker? I think you've mentioned that some people need to know what would be your deal breaker. Is incest, is pedophilia, is domestic violence. What is it that you know that if this happens, this is over? Women need to understand that marriage, because apart from our culture, we're also coming, especially with Christians, we're also coming from church that says God hates divorce. So it also sends a message of whether you're happy or not, for better, for worse. And some people will say, well, this is my worst, this is my cross, I have to carry it. But we need to understand that, there are some things that even God hates even much more than just divorcing. He hates that a man would sleep with his children, definitely. Hates that they will take advantage, rape someone. God must hate domestic violence, and if a woman understands that, that's first. So she's coming with a form of self-esteem and understanding. Secondly, that financial empowerment, whether we like it or not, is the root of a lot of things that women are willing to do. Probably because as a result of the marriage. So there are two factors. There's one that maybe your husbands have helped you to get to the point that you are. Then the second part, if you're in a group like that, meaning you're a married woman, you are respected and you're now in this group. If you divorce, you cannot be part of that group anymore. So there are quite a few factors.
Let me take this call from Kenneth. Good morning, Kenneth. You're live. Thanks for calling.
Good morning, Ma.
Morning, sir.
I must appreciate what you are doing. My second time of calling.
Welcome to the show.
Oh, second.
Yeah, but I like the topic. I think I want to say that there's really a lot to do about what our women view themselves. Because in this part where I am worried, I see a lot of marital issues, and sometimes I cry when I approach the ladies trying to mediate. I'm pastor, so I try to mediate and hear the version they view themselves. It's an extreme problem. And sometimes even when you try to tell them with the scripture and with the modern day trend, how things ought to go. Sometimes we hide in religion. But religion, Christianity has nothing to do with this low self-esteem of people. There's first humanity before Christianity. So if somebody's gotten his esteem wrongly, there's nothing right that he will do with the opponent or his husband or his wife.
All right.
And I think...
Thank you, Mr.
First
Kenneth.
humanity.
Nima, let me come to you.
I like that Miriam talked about the stigma that comes with divorce in this kind of circles. So these are like an August meeting, fellowship of women. The respected society women are married women. Whatever you fail to handle in your marriage will disqualify you from being here. So you see the essence of the question being asked, preparing those women's mind for if those things happen and how they resolve it and keep the home together, including being in the marriage. So older generation women were women who were less empowered. They were quiet. They were less vocal. So why you go they shout? This kind of thing, first of all, be quiet. First of all, be patient. They will tell you to be patient. Yes, patient, I agree, but silence. Don't loud it. Don't expose it. People will mock you. People will mock your husband. People would put the stigma that that's the woman whose husband slept with his sister. So you, first of all, concentrate on that. You don't want that label on yourself, your kids, or your husband, eventually, maybe because of his place in that circle. You secure that first as your role as a woman. Then you remove the cause, which could be the sister. And then, yes, that's the way they... See, that's the way you are... That's the way you qualify to belong in that circle. To be there, to be relevant. When you show up, you are the woman, you are the madam of the home, madam of this person. So those titles are so important. That's your focus. Your focus is not the power... The one they are, you as
People
a woman...
that are still dragging Linda KGT tomorrow.
To be, is
that
to
she's
be
not married.
Married at all costs, including the excesses.
So how do we fix
the
that,
level of
Nima?
patriarchy is that whatever deficiencies a man has, women come in, cover it up, deal with it, and make
how
him
do we
look like a
fix
man.
it? I mean, I don't want to restate what the
Yes.
obvious. These are things we know. How do we fix it?
For us to fix these issues, we need to stop talking to the women and start talking to the men.
Simple.
You need to stop talking. We spend so much time empowering, educating, all the women's meeting, all the training for women on how to be good wives. Can we talk to the men on how to be good husbands? Can we let them understand the impact of their insensitive behaviors or how they are pursuing their selfish interest impacts on the woman? Let's face the men. That's the only solution. Until we deal with the men, then we will not have the
start
solution.
having conferences like the way men are gathering together.
Yes,
and
when they will wear their umuna outfits.
Not us.
Good
People
Husbands
like-
Association.
It is not us who we talk to men.
Yeah.
Those people who establish the rules to enshrine patriarchy must tell the men. Men, tell men that these things are evil and are wrong to
Let me
society.
take this call. Come to you, Mariam. From Abuja, thanks for calling. 80, you're live. Thanks for calling.
Good morning, Mariah.
Good morning, madam.
On your view. This is my first time of calling.
Welcome to the show.
I've tried so many years, but thank God. And on this topic, can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly. Go ahead, please.
Okay. On this topic, I think women empowerment should be the basis. Because I know of someone that the husband opened a shop for her. And in every little opportunity, the husband gets to do anything just to take the keys of the shop. So we can also see from that background that such a woman, if such a woman would be in that situation, she would not want to say anything. She would just keep that silence and say, okay, if I talk, if I voice out, I will not be empowered anymore, you understand? So I think women empowerment, we should hit on that. We should hit on, because the men think this is a men's world, and some men do, and they think they can get away with anything. Yeah. After all, I'm a man. I'm the Lord, like Abraham. Sarah had her husband, called her the Lord. Yes. So that's my take on it.
Thank you very much, Ejiro.
I was going to say earlier.
I'm sorry, let me just quickly say, I don't agree with this Ejiro's perspective of women empowerment being the solution. We are having a new generation. Right now, there are more women being empowered, and it is leading to divorces. Women are walking out of marriages they are displeased with. Women are saying, I'm not going to get married, I'm going to have children and just be single. So empowered women will be single women, strong. But when we educate the men, we will have more happy marriages. And except the goal is just to have empowered women and not happy marriages. We need men to also
be mentally empowered.
Definitely. I just remember when we were talking about bringing men to this conversation. I remember my husband said as a young man, his father was like the patriarch of the home. So when there were issues in the family, they would go to the father and he would hear how they were discussing it. And he said, as a young man, he always knew that the woman or the wife is always at fault. That part of him growing up first was very sad for the woman, but as he grew older, he now realized, I'm in a privileged situation. I am not going to rock this boat. You know, so that is how we are bringing up the men. They're looking, they're seeing how issues are addressed and realizing I'm the powerful, I'm the alpha here, I'm good. There's nothing that I can ever do wrong. And so even if you're not sitting a man and saying, do this or do not do this, how we're constantly dealing with our issues as mothers, as women, as fathers to mothers, as husbands to wives, we are teaching our men.
Subliminally.
Yes. You know, a certain way. So what we need to do really, as we all said here, it's about men now deciding who they really are, what they really want for themselves and for their wives. Do you want to be married to wives that you love and you want to grow with and as your team member or your companion? Or do you just want to be this man running through the streets and different women back and forth so that the woman also understands that this is not a marriage? This is just a man just sowing his wild oats, you know? So men need to get into this conversation. What sort of man are you? What sort of man do you want your son to be? What sort of man do you want your daughter to be married to? What sort of man would you want your sisters or even our mothers that remarry? What sort of man would you want your mother to remarry?
Mara, see, when I read some of the comments under this post, some criticize just as we have. Others have said that, listen, that's why many of them had sustained marriages. That all of you that are here, all you woke women, you are criticizing what they are saying, but see, that's how they're able to sustain and raise responsible women. You today are not interested in having happy homes. You just want to have your job and have a child from somewhere, and you're okay. So how do we therefore reconcile? How do we reconcile these two perspectives where some are believing that it is for women to have this mentality is the only way a home can actually be sustained.
Yes.
The sanctity of a home can be sustained, where the man is the Lord, the wife is the neck, as they say, and she can't go wrong.
We must accept it at some level, but at the level of criminality. So your husband taking advantage of an underage under your watch is crime. Yeah. And you can be culpable for allowing him or even enabling him, or even assisting him. Some women hold down their sisters for their husband to rape.
Yes.
You know, so this...
That's underage, but what if...
Yes. Even overage, they go all down for the husband, you know, and they would go through it. I would like to talk to such women to see the trauma they put in themselves. Because, what's her name? A friend, the page I follow, recently posted women dealing with trauma in old age. She said she was talking to an 80-year-old woman who was staying in an over 40 years marriage, and the trauma was as fresh as when it happened. Sometimes when you're holding down, you know, enabling those things, you're destroying yourself. You can't be whole, you can't live a whole life. You can't even enjoy life, you know? And so those women must see it from that point of, I would be destroyed to have been part of this kind of evil. But, you know, maybe my husband has certain excesses. Is he cheating outside? You know, you want to keep the home. It's your choice. Those are your choices. But when it comes to... Yes, when it comes to destroying the lives of somebody within family, accepting certain excesses, there was a video of a young girl who was asked to abort a pregnancy. She had to go get a guy. She went out and spoke to a guy who did a video, and it was her sister's husband. And her sister was pregnant and saying, you brought this out, and you know, and they put the camera to the husband's face, and the man locked together and said, this is a family matter. You know, that woman, when she gives birth, how does she, when she revisits the issue over time, how does she see the issue? She can't be normal.
Exactly.
And so that conversation you're avoiding to have today is the time bomb waiting to destroy your future. How do you deal with such things?
Let me take this call. Uche from Mayobo, thanks for calling. You're live.
Yes.
Glad to hear. Go ahead, Uche.
Now, what I want to say is that when such things happen,
When what? Oh, okay, the line is out. So let's take a few comments on social media.
Before we go on social media, you know, I am worried that we are beginning to define, like, compromise, long suffering, tolerance. Those are the recipe for good marriages. How about we start flipping it and saying
in the Bible,
kindness, honesty. Yes, there will be times where you give a little compromise, but kindness, honesty, fidelity is the recipe for a good marriage. I mentioned earlier that women should see themselves outside being a wife. And somebody said, what I'm saying is going to promote divorce. No, it is going to promote wholeness. Because if a broken woman and a broken man come together, if you're not a whole human being before you come together, that is when you will start looking at your wife's younger sister and it will be entering your eye. You are broken. That is why a woman would see her husband sleeping with her younger sister and will be blaming the younger sister as opposed to blaming the older person in that relationship, which is the man. They are both broken. So if you see yourself as a woman and the man as a man, before coming into becoming husbands and wives, whole human beings, we would bring up better, wholesome marriages than what we are calling marriage right now, which is just a mixture of one person suffering in silence and calling herself, I am the king, I'm still married, I have tried.
You know something you said, Nima, reminded me of somebody, a good friend of my mom. And unfortunately, she's passed now. And she went through serious trauma. And you see her, and I can almost feel her pain even while I'm talking right now because the woman went through hell, and she only had one child, and she suffered in that marriage for years, where the man troubled that she would bring people to her own matrimonial house on her bed, stuff like that, that she would have to serve the girlfriend with her father, with her husband, like the mental torture. So and I saw her at old age. And I saw how she was almost mentally deranged. And you could tell that this woman, I mean, now that you're talking, it's now adding up.
Good.
Because I'm seeing that the woman went through hell.
Other people that are also suffering from
So when people are saying, oh, that's how they lasted in marriage, they didn't really last.
Good. That's where I wanted to go. When people, anytime we talk about that's how our mothers sustained it, or that's how our grandmothers sustained it. And you see this, that's not the only, I've met older women too. Elderly women, who when they sit and talk about their marriage, yes, they will get, when they talk to you about their children, about the sacrifices, they're happy. But when they talk to you about the marriage, they will discuss it as if it's just happening. It's so fresh in their minds. The trauma is real. So this sustenance of marriage that depends on one person killing themselves, making themselves so small, traumatizing one person so that the other can be as good or as bad as they want to be, and other people, why are we going to choose one person and break that person? Why is that the sort of union that we want to push forward? Why is that the sort of thing that we want to use as an example of a good marriage? Why is it that we've seen older people that have been in loving relationships? I'm sorry, but I tend to see it more in Oyinbo couples. You see them in 90s and their hundreds, and the sort of things that they say, and there's peace, and there's love, and there's, it comes from years and years of just constantly loving each other, and being kind to each other.
We had through some of the issues, but they're able to resolve it together and agree and forgive each other. But here, we don't.
Yes, and in that situation, no one was saying to the other person it's because she did not hold herself or she was the bad wife for not sustaining bad behavior. And what this does is, when we constantly push that picture of one person having to kill themselves for the marriage to last long is that you keep teaching the man again that it's okay to continue like this.
To lack accountability.
So if you want to change it, the mindset, if you want to change how marriage should look like, if you want to change what elderly people should remember when they think about their marriages, then you have to start laying down the rules of what you expect from men in marriages, whether they like it or not. A man that understands that a woman who is empowered, who has self-esteem, and knows that she has boundaries will be careful not to pass those boundaries, not to push those boundaries.
I spoke with an elderly man recently, and he was like, you see, you women, your issues are not our issues. My concern when I was young in my marriage was how the bills were paid. I'm busy making money. Whatever I did, my wife will deal with it. So we don't have fellowship meetings like this for men. They don't have time to be there. When they finally settle, they settle with their guys and drink and relax, and that's a casual time. Women are the ones who go to how the marriage work, how the parenting work, how the bikini can work. These are women issues. That's how our society sees it. So if men were having these conversations, maybe a man can say, how can you be doing that to another man? But they don't have a club, a city set up.
Yes.
Not a conversation.
I don't want to lose this
Waste
point.
of time.
People always think also that when a woman kills herself and suffers everything for this marriage, she benefits in the long term. Don't worry, just focus on your marriage, your children. In the end, it will still come out. You'll be happy. It's not all the time.
Not all the
because this woman I tell in question lost it all. The man went away somewhere else, remarried, the house, everything she had, she lost it and she died.
Yes.
The man today, as I'm speaking, he's lounging somewhere with his other wife. Chopping, and even we saw the suffering of this woman. So it doesn't always have the Cinderella ending.
Part you are not adding, where the consequence happens to the man.
Yeah.
So I have a distant relative who was very abusive of his wife, his first wife. He went ahead and married another wife to further punish the first wife. And just as you said, women who put up with this, she stayed in that marriage, she didn't leave. She focused on her 8 children. Those 8 children are around the world today, globally doing big things. And the man whose small wife did not really meet up passes, and they carried the body all the way to my village. The elderly children were not bothered. They could not have been bothered. They witnessed their mother's abuse that extended to them, including their fees not being paid. And so they were like, hey, somebody should sort it. But it is duty to now honor in old age, and they were not bothered. So I'm saying this because men are watching. My dad used to say, treat your kids so that their duties towards you is priority in your old age, in your weakness, so that they are not looking at I was talking to a young girl who was like, my father never gave me, as in, she said, I was hungry once and my father was eating and was saying, find your mom now, shame me need journey, you understand, won't I eat? And that girl was wired differently. So in our prime now, she'll be like, my father is not my
priority.
Once I sit to my mom, you'll be fine.
Let me go on a short break. When we come back, we'll take the comments and then we'll wrap up. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. Let's take a few calls. You can call us 081-0764-1679, 090-241-63440. Please tweet so that TVC Entertainment _ would like to hear from you. Any comments on social media?
So many on YouTube, just too many. Somebody said, a woman who wants respect from his wife should love her unconditionally and care for her. And Lady Tem says, the nurturing you got as babies was meant to grow you into caring men, not heartless ones. Mama TMO says, for mothers to sustain their marriages, they went through a lot. Mount Rushmore says, women perpetually lament. Only Mariam has not lamented about her husband on this table. They called you out for not lamenting. We are always that women are always lamenting. He's been attacking women. He said he also mentioned the fact, this same Mount Rushmore, he said that okay, well, let me not even give him. He said women who give birth to us, why don't you shape us according to your wishes while we are in your arms, so like in your care. So I think he's just throwing it back to mothers, that mothers should pay more attention to how they...
What he says that, Mura, do you realize that the phrase for better for worse is not in the Bible? Patriarchy created that.
But there's God hates divorce.
But for better for worse, and we say it every
For better
time
for
we are
worse is not in the
getting
Bible. Somebody's,
They added it.
I mean, it's our formation, was the patriarchy's formation of what to be happening in marriages. So we can actually reset
We can
what
change
to
for better
think.
for
No,
better.
people actually
They do their own.
read their own.
You shouldn't have the thinking that it must be for better, for worse.
Well, he's correcting me. He said it's not an esteem issue. It's a cultural orientation issue. Okay, esteem, I thought he said Eastern, so he's talking to Tokwe. It's not an esteem issue. It's a cultural orientation issue. I'm sure they too have their deal breakers, lines their men can't cross. The real rubble here is you and Morel thinking your position is necessarily superior to theirs. And saying that, you know, that mindset thing is about, it's not, ours is not necessarily superior to that. Bilkis Mafia says, please increase the volume for those at the back to hear. Start talking to the men. Get men involved in this conversation. Help men to unlearn and relearn how to be formidable husbands. And it shouldn't be one-sided. So that our people are not ready for this conversation. Society has made marriage a burden and torture on women. Little wonder the younger generation will just want to be baby mamas and running away from commitment. This is sadly the reality. Some girls who have witnessed their mothers go through some of these torturous marriages, it's either they commit to worse torture, you know, with the injury of non-recovery, or they choose to just be the extreme left. Don't worry, don't commit. I don't want a man over my head with this kind of trouble. Let me just remain my happy self. And life really, there's no really total solution happiness. Life is, it will deal with you one way or the other. But what we must not allow is men who think this is normal. I once ran into my neighbor's house as a young 11, 12-year-old girl. I was supposed to go on an errand and they left their door open. And I met the man holding a cane, as in Pankere, it was a brown spine cane, over his wife, who was a banker. And she was on her knees for coming home late. I couldn't believe she had dropped her. My mother was an Elero. She had dropped Pepe. She came home late and then ran home to change. But she didn't change and she didn't come. And when I was about to close, carry it to her house. And when I came in, I ran into the woman on her knees.
Serving punishment as a child.
With the husband holding Pankere. They didn't have kids. But her family did something that I never forgot in my life. I remember the day they came into that our estate. They came in and packed their sister's things. Well, if your head is not correct, we will correct it on your behalf. And that was the day. That man lived longer in that estate, but he was a miserable man. Really, he didn't have any other means. And, you know, he subjected that woman to that condition.
Thank you. See, another thing we always forget is that we never ever share the endings, the end stories of these things. You know, things happen. We don't follow the story through to the end to share, because sometimes when you see these stories and hear these stories, maybe it can serve as a deterrent to many, especially young men and women who make mistakes growing up, because many stories are there. They're examples to show. When men, you batter your wife, you batter your children, and then you're in your 70s, you're all by yourself. They're all that. They don't care if you're alive or dead.
It's so true.
And it happens, but we don't share the story. We just keep it because it's a hush-hush story. We keep it in our family. We don't tell anybody about it.
Don't want your loved ones.
Too many stories of men who live this very wild life, and then in their old age, they are ill. And then all those women are nowhere to be found.
Yes.
They'll now first culture.
Then
we
they'll
first the
now
first wife.
drag that long-suffering, ever-suffering woman and bring her now
and call her
to be carrying whatever and cleaning that person. Anyway, even the stories, the way they end, it always puts the men in an advantageous position.
We have to wrap up, but I think really, in a nutshell, the truth is that we can't judge. I think we've learned that we can't judge any perspective. So, because I said, some of us live in bubbles, and we just I always think from the perspective of my own world. But the truth is that I shouldn't do that. People are different, and it doesn't mean my world is better than theirs. It doesn't mean theirs is better than me. It's just that we must understand that we're different. And understanding where they're coming from, the idea is that we must let men see better, to understand that, listen, we can't continue to make women feel like victims in their own homes, feel like they have to suppress themselves.
The more suffering they take,
the better the marriage will be. So we need the men's perspective to change on marriage. When that begins to change, hopefully, women can begin to properly change and see things differently. I think that's all we can take onto this hot topic. When we come back, we'll bring in our guests. Stay with us. We'll be right back.